Welcome to NTD Evening News. Our top story tonight, 2 National Guard members are still in critical condition after being shot just blocks away from the White House. The shooting suspect, now identified as a 29-year-old Afghan national who drove across the country for the attack. President Trump calling it an act of terror, while the shooter's motive is still unknown. Mario Tzu in Washington, D.C. The death toll from a massive fire at a residential complex in Hong Kong has risen to 83. What police have said about the cause of one of the city's deadliest fires in decades. Russia sends a warning to Ukraine, telling its forces to withdraw now or face consequences. Arian Pazdar has how Ukraine is responding and the latest on efforts from the U.S. to stop the fighting. FBI Director Kash Patel responds to reports that President Trump is ready to fire him. He speaks exclusively to the Epic Times about that and what's next in the case against former FBI Director James Comey. Buzz Lightyear, Pikachu, and other beloved characters join the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, kicking off the holiday season on the streets of Manhattan. What are people grateful for this year? Kevin Hogan has more from today's celebration.
This is NTD Evening News, live from our global headquarters in New York City. Here's Tiffany Meyer.
Good evening and thank you for joining us tonight. 2 National Guardsmen are in critical condition a day after being shot just blocks away from the White House. President Trump calling the shooting an act of terror and deploying 500 more National Guard troops in the nation's capital. We now go live to NTD's Washington correspondent Mario Tzu, who was on the scene when the shooting happened yesterday and has been closely following the story. Mari, good evening.
Tiff, good evening. Yes, we're here at the scene of the shooting, which happened just a little before 2:15 p.m. yesterday at Farragut West Station behind me, which is just a couple of blocks up from the White House. I was in an Uber on my way to report at the White House, turning from I onto 17th there behind me when I heard multiple shots ring out. I saw a National Guardsman fall to the ground, and then there was a lockdown immediately put in place as MPD and Secret Service and firemen were all deployed to the location of the shooting. The FBI has spent this Thanksgiving investigating the shooting as a possible act of terrorism. The Department of Homeland Security has identified the suspect as a 29-year-old Afghan national who drove cross-country to commit what D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser is calling a targeted attack. He's currently being charged with 3 counts of assault with a deadly weapon and possession of a firearm during a violent crime. U.S. Attorney for D.C. Jeanine Pirro and FBI Director Kash Patel are saying this about the suspect's background today. Watch.
The suspect, he has been identified as Ramanullah Lakhanwal, a 29-year-old Afghan who entered the United States under Biden's Operation Allies Welcome, a program following the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan. What we know about him is that he drove his vehicle across country from the state of Washington with the intended target of coming to our nation's capital.
I also spoke to Director of the CIA, John Ratcliffe, last night, and Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth. There is confirmation now that the subject had a relationship in Afghanistan with partner forces. We are fully investigating that aspect of his background as well, to include any known associates that are either overseas or here in the United States of America. That is what a broad-based international terrorism investigation looks like.
The U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services announced late Wednesday night after the shooting that they are stopping processing immigration applications from Afghanistan in the wake of the shooting. And President Trump last night addressed the nation from Mar-a-Lago, Florida, where he's spending his Thanksgiving, saying that Lakhanwal was, quote, flown in by the Biden administration in September 2021 on one of those infamous flights that everybody was talking about. The president there is referring to a Biden-era program called Operation Allies Welcome, which provided entry to Afghan nationals after U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan in 2021. Take a look.
This heinous assault was an act of evil, an act of hatred, and an act of terror. It was a crime against our entire nation. It was a crime against humanity. The hearts of all Americans tonight are with those two members of the West Virginia National Guard and their families. The love of our entire country is pouring out for them. We must now re-examine every single alien who has entered our country from Afghanistan under Biden, and we must take all necessary measures to ensure the removal of any alien from any country who does not belong here or add benefit to our country. If they can't love our country, we don't want them. America will never bend and never yield in the face of terror.
The Biden administration says that Operation Allies Welcome was intended to support what it calls vulnerable Afghans, including those who worked alongside the U.S. in Afghanistan. Meanwhile, DHS Secretary Kristi Noem criticizes the program as having allowed in what she calls thousands of unvetted Afghan nationals, including terrorists. And White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller says this about President Trump's remarks. Watch.
The President's remarks, I think, were among the most moving that I've ever heard. It was perfect for this incredibly tragic occasion, this heartbreaking, anguishing tragedy right before Thanksgiving. We've never faced a threat like this. 20 million people brought into our country from the most failed societies on earth. Afghanistan, Somalia, Libya, Iraq, brought here. No vetting, no conditions, no rules. Brought here on visas, brought here as refugees, brought here as asylees, brought here as illegals. Brought here in every way imaginable, by plane, train, bus, automobile, by land, by sea. For 4 straight years, they deluged this country. And now more blood is being spilled as a result.
And Joseph Edlow, the head of the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, is announcing today that his agency is launching a re-examination of green card holders from what the administration calls 19 countries of concern. Tiff.
And we remember that the president back in June issued a proclamation listing 19 countries he considered, quote, deficient with regards to screening and vetting. Afghanistan is among them, as are Haiti, Iran, and Venezuela. Mari, meanwhile, though, what do we know about the 2 guardsmen who were shot yesterday?
Sure, Tiff. So both of those guardsmen have been identified, and both are in critical condition after having undergone surgery. One of them is Sarah Beckstrom, a 20-year-old, and a 24-year-old Andrew Wolf. Beckstrom's father tells the New York Times that his daughter suffered a mortal wound and is unlikely to recover. Both are members of the West Virginia National Guard, and according to Judge Pirro, both Andrew and Sarah were sworn in less than 24 hours before they were shot yesterday. And a few months ago, when President Trump mobilized the D.C. National Guard back on August 11th, 300 Guard from West Virginia were deployed to Washington, D.C., and 160 volunteered to extend their deployment until the end of the year, including these 2 guardsmen. Attorney General Pam Bondi says this about the Guardsman. Watch.
I'd like to add something about the young woman. She volunteered to be there on Thanksgiving, working today. She volunteered, as did many of those guardsmen and women, so other people could be home with their families. Yet now their families are in hospital rooms with them while they are fighting for their lives. So, just pray, everyone pray today for these 2 soldiers, these 2 guardsmen, the man and woman. They are heroes. They are the best of the best. They are working so we can all go to church, so our kids can go to school, so we can celebrate Thanksgiving with our families. Yet this horrific tragedy happened right now, and these families are having Thanksgiving at the bedside of their children and their family members.
Attorney General Pam Bondi adds that Lochinwall's charges are dependent on the prognosis of the 2 guardsmen, but that the worst-case scenario will be minimum life in prison with terrorism charges. This is coming as President Trump deploys 500 additional National Guardsmen to D.C. In the wake of the shooting. Tiff.
Moving remarks from the Attorney General there, and certainly a tragic Thanksgiving for the families of those guardsmen and the nation. Pivoting slightly, though, Mari, how is President Trump spending his Thanksgiving?
Sure, Tiff. So as per Trump family tradition, President Trump is spending his Thanksgiving in Mar-a-Lago, Florida. The only event on his schedule today is an evening call with service members. And meanwhile, Secretary Kennedy is posting an AI-edited photo to X that's generated a lot of attention today, the original of which was from November of last year. The 2024 original pictured HHS Secretary Kennedy with Elon Musk and the president sharing a McDonald's meal with Donald Trump Jr. joking that the Make America Healthy Again agenda starts tomorrow. The edited version has swapped out the McDonald's for a Thanksgiving meal aboard the president's private plane. And amid this playful twist from the secretary, though, President Trump, his message this Thanksgiving is one of renewing faith, which he articulated during the turkey pardon on Tuesday Watch.
I hope all Americans will have the chance to enjoy the fellowship of family and friends and renew our faith in God's providence. We have more people praying. The churches are coming back, but religion is coming back to America.
And as President Trump officially proclaims today as National Thanksgiving Day, he does so in the spirit of George Washington. His presidential proclamation reads that in 1789, just after America's triumph over tyranny in the Revolutionary War, President George Washington established the first National Day of Thanksgiving, declaring the duty of all nations to acknowledge the providence of Almighty God, to obey his will, to be grateful for his benefits, and humbly to implore his protection and favor. The president then turns to the present, touting a strong economy, global peace, and a renewed American spirit, before ultimately turning to the future, saying that as we prepare to celebrate 250 years of American independence, this Thanksgiving, we vow to build a future that echoes their sacrifice. Above all, the president says, we offer our endless gratitude to Almighty God for his love, grace, and infinite blessings. Tiff, back to you.
All right, Mari, thanks for those updates and happy Thanksgiving. Investigations are underway in Hong Kong after a fire killed at least 83 people at an apartment complex. The city's chief executive, John Lee, says they are zeroing in on the building maintenance company responsible for renovating the housing estate.
Police arrested 3 men around their 50s at midnight, who are the company executives in charge of the renovation at Wong Fuk Court. They are being detained at the moment. Police went to their office to collect evidence and conduct investigation.
2 directors and an engineering consultant of the company are suspected of manslaughter over the fire. The government identified the registered contractor for the complex as Prestige Construction and Engineering Company Limited. The company has remained silent. Lee said the government is inspecting renovations across Hong Kong involving bamboo scaffolding. The city's development bureau had also discussed gradually replacing bamboo scaffolding with metal scaffolding. The Hong Kong government would set up a $38 million fund to help residents. Each affected family will get an emergency fund worth roughly $1,300. Here's more on the deadliest fire in Hong Kong in decades.
Firefighters continue to douse fires that engulfed the Wong Fuk Court apartment complex in Hong Kong on Thursday, over 24 hours since the blaze began. Nearly 300 people are still unaccounted for.
Actually, our major challenge is the temperature is very high in the fire ground, and the inside layout is very complex because the scaffolding is collapsed. And our firefighter need to conference the high temperature to proceed to the fire ground one layer by one layer.
Authorities earlier said that in addition to the buildings being covered with protective mesh sheets and plastic that did not meet fire standards, they discovered in one unaffected building that windows were sealed with foam material installed by a construction company carrying out maintenance work. Eileen Chung is a senior superintendent with the Hong Kong Police.
We do not rule out the possibility that these foam materials contributed to the rapid spread of the fire. We have reason to believe that the company's responsible parties were grossly negligent, which led to this accident and caused the fire to spread uncontrollably. resulting in major casualties.
The police have arrested 3 men from the construction firm on suspicion of manslaughter. Meantime, residents of the apartment complex are mourning the loss of their homes.
We bought this apartment more than 20 years ago. All of our belongings were in this apartment. And now that it is all burned like this, what's left? There's nothing left. What are we supposed to do? What we hope most is that the government will help us solve this problem. We don't have any other requests, just a hope that the government can help us resolve it.
Other residents are concerned about how authorities handled evacuations.
The firemen could have put out the smaller fire on our block and saved everyone inside first. My block is still on fire now. My daughter and my husband are still not out. The husband of my neighbor has already died.
Hong Kong is among the most densely populated places in the world and also among the world's most expensive housing markets. Wang Fuk Court is one of many high-rise housing complexes under the government's subsidized home ownership scheme. It has 2,000 apartments in 8 blocks that are home to more than 4,600 people in a city struggling with a chronic shortage of affordable housing.
Russia and Ukraine both say they'll separately meet with U.S. officials soon. Russia also sends a renewed warning to which Ukraine is already responding. NTD's international correspondent Arian Pastar has more.
The U.S. keeps working with both sides of the Russia-Ukraine war to end the fighting. Russian President Vladimir Putin now says U.S. officials might travel to Moscow soon.
The latest information I received yesterday is that President Trump has decided, as previously agreed, that the American side is proposing a meeting in Moscow next week.
Putin also commented on the latest peace plan drafted by the U.S. The Russian president says the outlines of the plan could become the basis of future agreements to end the conflict in Ukraine. According to Putin, the U.S. is taking into account Russia's position on the conflict. He also issued a warning, saying that once Ukrainian troops withdraw from their positions in key areas, then the fighting will stop. But if they don't, then Russian forces will achieve their objectives by force. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky responded, saying peace depends on security guarantees, not Russian threats.
Whether there will be peace does not depend on Russia's threats or on whatever ultimatums it voices. It depends on the conditions the world ensures so that this aggression cannot be continued.
He added that Ukraine stays in close contact with its partners in the US and Europe. Ukrainian officials are set to meet with American counterparts soon.
Already this week, at the end of the week, our team, together with American representatives, will continue to translate the points we secured in Geneva.
However, after Sunday's meeting in Geneva, Russia said it doesn't agree to some of the points decided by the West. And the head of NATO also weighing in on the peace efforts led by the United States.
Russia has paid a high price for marginal gains, and Ukraine continues to defend itself with courage. There's tremendous renewed energy around the peace process, and for that I want to commend US President Trump.
He added that NATO's goal for now is to invest more into defense to guarantee the security of member states. Arian Pastar, NTD News.
French President Emmanuel Macron today announced the creation of a new voluntary youth military service to begin by mid-2026. Macron says the move will help France respond to accelerating threats on the global stage.
In this world that is uncertain where force rules over law, war is a present-day reality. Our nation could not afford fear, panic, lack of preparedness, or division. And fear never prevents danger. The only way to avoid it is to prepare for it.
The move is part of a broader shift across Europe. Macron said the voluntary program will be open to 18 and 19-year-olds who would be paid. It would last 10 months and cost about $2.25 billion. The plan is for 3,000 people in 2026 who will only serve on French soil. That number will rise to 10,000 by 2030 and 50,000 youth by 2035. Macron says the number will be adjusted based on the evolution of threats. The announcement brings France in line with nearly a dozen other European nations like Germany and Denmark that have launched similar projects. In the West Bank, Israeli troops are accused of shooting 2 suspected terrorists after they appeared to surrender. Meanwhile, the ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon hits the 1-year mark as Israel continues to strike Hezbollah targets in the country. NTD's Jason Perry has the details.
Israeli troops were seen outside this building in the West Bank on Thursday, and 2 suspected terrorists came out of the building with their hands up. At the same time, Israeli troops on the left of the screen appeared to see an immediate threat and moved toward that area. And during this time, Israel said gunfire was directed at the 2 suspects who had just appeared to surrender. The Palestinian Health Ministry said the 2 men were killed in the shooting. Israel said the 2 men were affiliated with a terrorist network and that the shooting incident is now under review. On the same day, Israel released these maps of areas in the West Bank showing where terrorists had either conducted shooting attacks or detonated explosives in the past year. In another development, it has now been 1 year into the ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon, and Israeli troops are still operating inside Lebanon to, quote, prevent the Hezbollah terrorist organization from rebuilding. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu recently explained.
The policy that I am leading is absolutely clear. Under my leadership, the State of Israel will not allow Hezbollah to rebuild its power, and we will not allow it to once again pose a threat to the State of Israel.
And on Thursday, Israel reported that troops had located dozens of military structures, weapon storage facilities, missile launch sites, missile launchers, and observation and firing positions. And on the same day, Israel launched more airstrikes in southern Lebanon directed at Hezbollah terrorist infrastructure. Netanyahu said this about Lebanon holding up their side of the ceasefire agreement.
I expect the Lebanese government to fulfill its commitment to disarm Hezbollah, because only in this way will every citizen in Lebanon be able to have a better future, and only in this way can good, safe neighborliness exist between Israel and Lebanon.
Hezbollah recently said they won't give up their weapons until Israel withdraws from southern Lebanon. However, Lebanon's prime minister criticized Hezbollah for not laying down their weapons, saying the Iran-backed group has not protected the Lebanese people or even the terrorist group's own leaders. Jason Perry, NTD News.
Pope Leo delivered a Thanksgiving message to Americans today while on his way to Turkey. It's the Pope's first foreign trip since his election. Take a listen.
To the Americans here, happy Thanksgiving. It's a wonderful day to celebrate, and I want to begin by saying thank you to each and every one of you for the service that you offer to the Vatican, to the Holy See, to my person, but to the whole world. It's so important today that the message be transmitted in a way that really reveals the truth and the harmony that the world needs.
Pope Leo arrived in Ankara earlier in the day. He emphasized a message of peace, encouraging Turkey to be a source of stability and dialogue in a world riven by conflict. The Pope's visit comes amid efforts to end wars in Ukraine and Gaza. He also met with President Tayyip Erdogan. The Pope will travel to Istanbul in the evening. Coming up, weather could play spoilsport over the Thanksgiving holiday, winter storms and snow. What the forecast looks like as the country gears up for one of the busiest holiday travel seasons on record. Buzz Lightyear, Pikachu, and other beloved characters join the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade today, kicking off the holiday season on the streets of Manhattan. What are people grateful for this year? Kevin Hogan tells us more when we come back. Welcome back. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Bad news for some travelers this Thanksgiving. Forecasters warn a powerful storm system will blanket the northern plains and Great Lakes with heavy snow over the holiday. Winter storm warnings are in place from Minnesota to Michigan, with some areas expecting more than a foot of snow and blizzard conditions. The National Weather Service says this system is a deep and fairly intense cyclone. Lake effect snow is expected to intensify today, with communities downwind of the Great Lakes bracing for heavy accumulations through tomorrow. The storm threatens one of the busiest travel weekends on record, as more than 80 million Americans are expected to hit the roads and skies for Thanksgiving. Here's more on the holiday weather.
Today, a winter storm system that hit Minnesota and North Dakota is wreaking havoc around the Great Lakes. Meteorologists say a winter cyclone is causing blizzard conditions in some areas. It's also creating a rare chance of thundersnow. The weather's affecting Thanksgiving travel in Michigan.
You know, you definitely have to pull into directions because that wind will take you right off into a ditch if you don't.
A first responder near Fargo says he's reminded of the need to drive safely after this sliding truck narrowly missed him this week.
Help us to get home safely to our families on there. So a lot of us are volunteers or first responders out there that are risking our lives to help others. So at least do us that courtesy, just slow down.
The National Weather Service says parts of Fargo got more than 5 inches of snow.
With that wind, it kind of piled up on the avenues. The streets are favoring a little better.
In Minnesota, officials say a 69-year-old man is dead after a snow-covered tree fell on him yesterday.
It actually did not snap off due to the weight. It actually uprooted from the ground while he was snowblowing.
Meanwhile, forecasters say a second storm system is in the Pacific Northwest and in many states.
It is going to feel bitter cold for a lot of areas, even all the way down to the Gulf Coast.
The Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade in New York City wowed spectators of all ages and walks of life. Our reporter Kevin Hogan paid a visit to the festivities to bring us a glimpse of the sights, sounds, and atmosphere. Take a look.
A magical day indeed, with gratitude at the forefront. What brought you out here today, and what is the meaning behind what you're doing?
So, when you think about Thanksgiving, I have so much to be grateful for, so I wanted to bring a little bit of cheer to other people.
Spectators say you can feel how all in attendance are leading with their hearts, looking out for one another with compassion.
We're all really thoughtful and absolutely. We celebrate if someone's having a birthday party, we sing happy birthday. If someone just visits from out of state, we make sure we go out of our way to celebrate them, throw confetti to the children. We help one another. Someone stepped on my dress. They were helping me staple the train together. So yes, we're all here to help each other and have a great time.
Well, who makes the costumes?
Oh, I don't know who makes the costume. Macy's Entertainment. Somebody makes the costumes.
What costume?
I woke up like this. What are you talking about?
What about the employees? How have they been able to work together through difficulties?
I mean, they work all year on this parade. I mean, it's not just, yes, it's one day kind of bunched up with all this stuff, but they work throughout the year, kind of getting everyone ready, even off-site trainings for the balloon handlers, yeah.
It's not easy navigating a 4-story long balloon down Central Park West in the wind. One cord was stuck in a tree. Not to worry, the pros can handle it. What was your favorite part of the parade so far?
I like all the floats, and I like how they're so big. Yeah, that's like the main part. And I like how I saw some of my favorite rappers. Yeah.
That's really cool. Okay, so what time did you wake up this morning?
Around 4 in the morning. My mom got up at 3:30.
That is incredible. Was it hard?
I'm not normally used to it. We live as a quick, let's go get ready stuff, like go type of lifestyle. We're not normally like, oh, we walk around, we just get stuff done.
The memories will last for sure. How do I know?
This is the best, guys! I love this so much. Yeah!
You and your kid look like you're having a lot of fun.
His mind is blown right now.
It's real uncontrollable happiness is what's happening.
That's why we're here.
It's amazing. So, I mean, that's dedication. You got to the front lines right here.
Yes, we did. Yeah. We got here early. Parking was not fun.
The Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade didn't disappoint. Marching bands, Goku, and Buzz Lightyear.
Coming up, as Americans come together to celebrate Thanksgiving, the men and women of our nation's military remain in service both at home and abroad. Service members and law enforcement officers put their lives at risk every day, including the 2 National Guard members who were gunned down yesterday. How do we honor their sacrifices? Retired Las Vegas Police Lieutenant Randy Sutton joins us to discuss. FBI Director Patel responds to reports that President Trump is ready to fire him. He speaks exclusively to the Epic Times about that and what's next in the case against former FBI Director James Comey. Stay tuned for a preview of that conversation when we come back. Welcome back. I'm Tiffany Meyer. As Americans come together to celebrate Thanksgiving, service members and law enforcement officers remain on duty, risking their lives to keep us safe. That includes the 2 National Guard members who were attacked yesterday. We now know that they were both re-deputized the day before the shooting, but were on orders in the city since August. 20-year-old Sarah Beckstrom had volunteered to work during the holiday so others could spend Thanksgiving with their families. And President Trump moments ago confirmed that she has passed away. How can we honor her sacrifice as well as the sacrifice of the other wounded Guardsman, Andrew Wolf, and their fellow service members? Joining us now is retired Las Vegas Police Lieutenant Randy Sutton. He's the founder and chairman of the Wounded Blue. Randy, thank you so much for joining us. Good to see you again. Now, more information is coming out about that tragic shooting in D.C. Talk to us about the selfless service these men and women embody, for example, keeping our nation safe while people go home to their families for the holidays.
Yeah, I don't think it could be more dramatically demonstrated the sacrifice that the men and women of not just law enforcement, but the National Guard who have been called into service during this criminal justice crisis are making. The death of this young woman, 20 years old, just at the beginning of her life, is all of America should mourn today because of this tragic set of circumstances. And the reality is this: that every single day, men and women of the American law enforcement community, and those who are serving in those capacities, are are being injured. Last year, more than 89,000 American law enforcement officers were physically assaulted in the line of duty. They were shot, they were stabbed, they were beaten, they were hit with bricks, they were hit with bottles. It's an unprecedented number. In America, almost every single day, an American law enforcement officer is being shot. This is a statistic that is not known, is really not being put out by the American media, but it is the reality that every American law enforcement officer faces. The reality that each day may be their last, and yet they go on and they continue to serve.
And with what you just laid out there, what does it mean to serve not just for the one who signed up, but for their family, knowing how risky this line of business is? What kind of person does it take?
I'm really glad you asked that. Having being a 34-year law enforcement veteran myself, and running a nationwide charity, the Wounded Blue, that helps injured and disabled officers, we realize that it is when these sacrifices are made, it's not just the officer, it's their families. We actually provide spousal support for the families of police officers who have been injured in the line of duty. It is and believe me, thousands and thousands of families are facing these crises every single day in America. It is our great untold secret that these officers are being injured in a myriad of ways, not just from physical attacks, but from car wrecks, from accidents, from foot chases. There's a there's a gazillion different ways to get hurt as a law enforcement officer, and the sacrifices of the families are just as dramatic as those of the officers who are being affected.
And on that note, Randy, could you talk to us about the role faith has played in the lives of those serving in the line of duty and families who've suffered losses?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your question.
All right, could you talk about the role of faith for those serving and also the families who've suffered losses?
Well, the role is very dramatic. That when officers are being hurt, when service people are being hurt, it is a ripple effect, and it's affecting many people. So it isn't just a singular aspect, and so the resources that are out there to help have to be worked in conjunction with one another. It's a team aspect. It's a team effort that not just the federal government, the state governments, but many charity organizations such as mine all have to play a role, because in order to show support for the men and women who are serving, it takes a team, And that means that it takes all of America to say that they care and show that they care.
And with today being Thanksgiving, how can we best honor and support those who serve?
Well, I'm gonna speak selfishly in that my organization, the Wounded Blue, is a nationwide charity that's helped more than 16,000 American law enforcement officers injured either physically or emotionally, psychologically. And I'm often asked, how do I show that support? Well, if you go to thewoundedblue.org, see who we are, see what we do, give what you can. We're asking for people to donate $9.11 a month because when the people need help, they call 911. But when the police need help, they call the Wounded Blue, and you can help them by helping us.
Well, Randy Sutton, thank you so much for joining us, and happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to you. Thank you.
Media reports citing anonymous sources say President Trump is preparing to fire FBI Director Kash Patel. Patel told the Epoch Times yesterday that he was with the president in the Oval Office when they heard about the reports.
It was pretty comical because the president and I were both discussing law enforcement operations across the country with our team, the Attorney General and other members of the department. And we were made aware that there was reporting that I was being terminated. And the president laughed and he said, "What are they talking about? Kash is doing a great job."
Patel was instrumental in disproving the narrative that Trump colluded with Russia to win the 2016 presidential election. He's been a close ally of the president since then. In a 2023 book, Patel accused former FBI Director James Comey of weaponizing federal law enforcement against Trump and said he should face charges. During this week's interview, Patel was asked about the case against Comey that a federal judge recently tossed.
The judicial process can make whatever determination it wants, but we, the FBI, and our partners at the DOJ have numerous options to proceed, and we're executing on all those options. So we're not done.
NTD News will air the Epoch Times' full exclusive interview with FBI Director Kash Patel this weekend. It premieres Sunday, November 30th at 8 p.m. Eastern. Coming up, while eating turkey has become a mainstay on Thanksgiving, so is watching football. Dave Martin joins us with an update of today's action when we return. And this year's holiday train show at the New York Botanical Garden didn't disappoint, showcasing nearly 200 iconic New York City landmarks. John Marshall takes us there after the break. And now for your sports news, we're joined by NTD's Dave Martin. Dave, Thanksgiving has become synonymous with family, friends, and of course, NFL football. So we have 3 games today. Where do we stand right now?
Well, already the Green Bay Packers beat the Detroit Lions 31-24 this afternoon. That was the early game. Now, good news for those of you who had Jordan Love on your fantasy football team. Love threw for 234 yards and 4 touchdown passes. 2 of those passes went to Dontavian Wicks. Now, meanwhile, for Detroit, quarterback Jared Goff threw for 256 yards and 2 touchdowns, but it wasn't quite enough. Now, this was a significant win for Green Bay, especially in the playoff race. Now, both of these teams trail Chicago in the division, but so should it come down to them both vying for a wild card, Packers have now beaten the Lions twice this season. They would win a tiebreaker between these 2 teams. Now, in the second game going on right now, the Chiefs trail the Cowboys 17-14 in the third quarter. Both of these teams need this one as well. Kansas City and Dallas would be out of the playoffs if they started today. And finally, tonight, Ravens host the Bengals. Joe Burrow makes his return from that toe injury suffered back in mid-September. Bengals, meanwhile, have only won 1 game since he injured.
All right, well, is it just me or do the Cowboys and Lions play every Thanksgiving?
You know, Tiff, not much gets past you. You are exactly right. Now get this. The Lions started this Thanksgiving tradition back in 1934 as a way to attract fans, and it worked. They had their first sellout that Thanksgiving, and they've hosted a Thanksgiving every year since, except for 1945, though I'm actually not sure why. Now, Dallas didn't start playing on Thanksgiving until 1966. They set an attendance record at the time. More than 80,000 people showed up at that game. Now, except they've played every year then since 1966, except 1975 and 77. The NFL tried to actually put it to the St. Louis Cardinals then, but it didn't work out, so they went back to the Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys 34-22-1 record on Thanksgiving. Lions now with a loss today, 38-46-2. Now, the NFL didn't start having a third game on Thanksgiving until 2006, but it does not have a fixed team or host. Just an FYI for you, Tiff.
All right, I'll keep an eye out on that. Looking at college football, though, this is rivalry weekend. What are some of the matchups that you're looking forward to seeing?
Yeah, well, we have a lot of good ones here. They start tomorrow, spill into Saturday. Friday, we start at noon Eastern time with the Egg Bowl. 7th-ranked Ole Miss plays at Mississippi State. Rebels have won 4 of the last 5 in this series, but they've all been close. Then at 3:30 Eastern time, number 4 Georgia plays 23rd-ranked Georgia Tech. Now, the Bulldogs won last year's battle in an incredible 8 overtimes. Then in the evening, 2nd-ranked Indiana plays Purdue in a battle of first and last place teams in the Big Ten. That's at 7:30 Eastern time. Also at 7:30 Eastern time in the SEC, 3rd-ranked Texas A&M is at number 16 Texas. Now, the Longhorns are a long shot for the playoffs, but they would certainly love to spoil the Aggies. So far, perfect season. Then on Saturday, we got the big one. Number 1 Ohio State is at 15th-ranked Michigan. Buckeyes head coach Ryan Day has won a national championship, but he's just 1-4 against his big rival Wolverines. That game starts at noon Eastern time. Then Saturday also, we've got big ones. Vanderbilt versus Tennessee, Virginia Tech. The Iron Bowl, that's Auburn versus Alabama. And finally, in the Big Ten now, UCLA plays USC. So, I don't know about you, Tiff, but my weekend just got slammed.
It's packed. Shifting gears to baseball, though, the Toronto Blue Jays have agreed to a 7-year deal with free agent pitcher Dylan Cease worth more than $200 million. That's according to multiple reports. What do you make of this signing?
Well, I approve it, Tiff. It really makes the Blue Jays starting pitching, quite a strength. It's not like this was a weakness last year. I mean, Toronto came this close to winning the World Series just a few weeks ago. But if you look at what they have coming back, you've got that 21-year-old rookie, Trey Savage, who became the youngest pitcher ever to start a Game 1 in the World Series. He looks like a future All-Star. Plus, former Cy Young winner Shane Bieber, he opted into his $16 million player option for next season. Now, Bieber has missed most of the last 2 years after undergoing Tommy John surgery, but he looked well recovered there in the playoffs. Now, Dylan Cease, meanwhile, has finished 2nd and 4th in the Cy Young voting over the past 4 years. His biggest strength, though, may be his durability. He's logged at least 32 starts each of the last 5 years. Very rare for a pitcher, very valuable for a team. So the deal is reported 7 years worth $210 million. Neither the team nor the player, though, has confirmed it yet, anyway.
All right, well, Dave, as always, thanks for joining us, and happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Tiff.
The holiday train show at the New York Botanical Garden is now back for the season. Miniature trains and iconic New York City landmarks brought to life as the show celebrates its 34th year. NTD's Sean Marshall was there.
Kids and adults can all enjoy the New York Botanical Garden holiday train show. The intricate detail that goes into making these buildings is simply amazing. They're designed after buildings and structures all around New York City. And not only is the train show amazing, but you can also enjoy the magical aura of the diverse plants and flowers all around the Botanical Garden. Each year, the New York Botanical Garden team switches things up a little bit for the holiday train show, with nearly 200 famous New York landmarks like the Statue of Liberty, Brooklyn Bridge, and Rockefeller Center, along with other popular and historical sites. Last year, the Bronx was displayed front and center, and this year, Central Park is in the Hopf Conservatory main area.
So exciting for kids to come. There's over 30 G-scale model trains here. We have our very famous Thomas the Train that they can come and not interact with, but they can come and hang out with, watch them loop around the tracks. And of course, there's so many other types of trains that they can see going across bridges, our famous Brooklyn Bridge, Manhattan Bridge, and then of course interacting throughout the various other scapes and models that have been created here.
Famous Thomas the Tank Engine is so popular that it needs to be a little off to the side and a little bit back from the barrier so kids don't try to take them home with them. And for plant lovers, the train show gives an extra bit of fun to a botanical garden visit.
Here with a botany class, actually, we just visited the herbarium, we saw some phenomenal specimens, and this is phenomenal here. I love seeing the detail on the trains. It's amazing just seeing how intricate everything is. I just heard someone say that it's all made from natural materials as well, this whole exhibition, which I just find so phenomenally impressive.
I mean, I would say get here. Honestly, it's something you really should see. I'm here with our grandson and my wife and the whole family. And the only thing I could say is if maybe they had a beer stop, maybe some draft beer that you could, find every 30 feet or so. That's the only improvement I can think about.
There are actually drinks available during the nighttime show. Energetic after dark celebrations where you can sip seasonal cocktails and mocktails around the Hopped Conservatory.
Yeah, the team is so creative in how they make all of the different models. They grab various types of twigs, seed pods, bark from trees found in the forests of Kentucky, but also sometimes they find things here at the New York Botanical Garden that has just fallen to the ground that they collect and they add to their collection for when they're making new models for us. So it's all natural materials, which makes it even more special because it adds to the story here at the Botanical Garden.
Seasonal classics and holiday pop favorites fill the air as live performers bring musical sounds of the season to the garden during the night shows. Tickets are starting at $25. Just visit the website nybg.org for all the details. There you'll find tickets for daytime as well as the nighttime experience. Sean Marshall, NTD News.
And that's all for today's news. For round-the-clock coverage, visit us at ntd.com/live or download our NTD app. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Tiffany Meyer, and from all of us here at NTD, happy Thanksgiving. We're grateful for your continued support. Good night.